Hello everyone, it's Danny Wills from Boxing Science and welcome to the Plyometrics for Combat Sports workshop. This workshop we're going to learn the benefits of plyometrics in boxing and combat sports. Obviously plyometrics is quite well renowned in across other sports, working on speed and explosiveness, and can be really beneficial for boxing and combat sports. But with our sports, there's a few different challenges that athletes face, such as being in a calorie deficit, strength levels, movement patterns as well. We're going to go into some of the different challenges that athletes might face. I'm going to introduce the plyometric journey that we take our boxing science athletes on, and then we're going to give it a go. We're going to give you over 30 new exercises that fit across this boxing science plyometric journey. So what are plyometrics? You might have heard the term before, but not actually familiar with what it actually is. This is also known as jump training, or in short, plyos. And these are exercises that challenge our muscles to exert a lot of force in a short amount of time. As we know, with the science behind the punch, this is going to be really beneficial for boxers and combat athletes. And we often use this for long-term gains in sports performance, but also short-term gains as well, as it's used a lot in the warm-ups to help fire up the upper and lower body. So what are the benefits of plyometrics in sport itself? So we're just talking generally now. So the benefits of plyometrics is to improve the utilisation and function of the stretch shortening cycle. And this can help develop large amounts of force in a short amount of time. And this has huge transfers to sport-specific movements, such as sprinting, jumping, throwing and changing direction. So it's quite popular in a lot of court-based or field sports as well, and it's really popular in athletics such as long jump, high jump, 100-meter sprinting. Plyometrics is used across a range of sports. But what about the benefits of plyometrics in boxing? So it improves speed, footwork and balance. If you think about boxers, they're always on their toes, they're always light on their feet, and when they're actually moving around, very short contact time, very fast movement. So it's really important that we improve our speed and footwork. During that, we've got high amounts of training load and a lot of loading going through the tendons and our joints. Plyometrics can actually help tolerate that and try and improve that robustness as well. So plyometrics are really good in reducing the likelihood of injury. As we mentioned, there's a lot of short-term gains attached to plyometrics, so it can actually improve the motor unit recruitment in the short term. So this is why we use it for warm-ups, to fire up the lower body, ready for them to go onto the pads, be nice and quick and sharp when on the pad work, ready to go into the boxing, or maybe ready to go into a competitive bout. And the main thing that it does is help improve the eccentric utilisation or the stretch shortening cycle during a punch. This could be during single or combination punching. So if you think about the first movement of a punch, it comes from the foot, okay? So we're driving into the floor, rebounding and throwing that punch. And that comes from a very short dip into that back foot or into your front foot if you're throwing a lead hand shot. So if we're not able to utilise eccentrically or able to use that stretch shortening cycle effectively, then we won't be able to bounce off the feet and drive that force into your punch. As well with combination punching, if you throw a shot, then you have to dip and then come back with another shot. If we're not able to use our eccentric utilisation or stretch shortening cycle effectively, this affects the force of the next punch. So what are the aims of plyometrics? The aim of plyometrics is to improve the effectiveness of the stretch shortening cycle. I'm going to come on to that in a couple of slides' time. We've got two types that we want to focus on. We've got a short stretch shortening cycle, we've got a long stretch shortening cycle as well. On a short stretch shortening cycle, we've got a ground contact time of 200 to 250 milliseconds. This basically, if you get a stopwatch and try and stop it as fast as you can, more than likely going to touch that. Probably not going to time that in the gym. So what I say to the athletes is that your ground contact time during short stretch shortening cycle activities should just sound like a clap. The long stretch shortening cycle has a ground contact time of anywhere between 250 and 1000 milliseconds, so a second. This can be like a counter movement jump, a squat jump activity, something that's longer than a quick tap on the floor, but still is performed as quickly as possible because we're trying to improve that speed and explosiveness, just challenging it in a different way. So now I'm going to introduce the three phases of plyometrics. So you've got eccentric, the amortization, and the third phase being the concentric phase. The first one is eccentric. This is how effectively we control the downward force. So how fast we can decelerate before we reaccelerate into the concentric part. This is good for like deceleration when we're swapping and changing or doing landing mechanics as well. Knee and ankle stiffness are important for effective force absorption, and as well strength levels. The stronger that you are, the more effectively you'll be able to control eccentrically. The next phase between the eccentric and the concentric is the amortization phase, and this is the time and space between the first and third phase. The quicker the amortization phase is, the less elastic stored energy is lost. So we want to try and minimize this to 200, 250 milliseconds. So any longer than that, we lose that stored energy to help assist force production during the concentric phase. The concentric phase is a shortening of the muscle. The muscle contracts and produces a lot of force in that short amount of time. Like I said, this phase is assisted by the stored elastic potential energy from the stretch shortening cycle. So you're seeing a pattern here. You're seeing that the concentric phase is affected by the amortization phase, but also the eccentric phase can affect the amortization phase. So if this amortization phase isn't optimized to 200, 250 milliseconds or performed as quickly as possible, the amount of force that can be produced in concentric phase is affected. However, if you're not able to control forces and absorb forces effectively during the eccentric phase, this can have a big effect on the amortization phase. So when developing athletes, being able to absorb force before you can produce force is really important. It's really important for our athletes here at Boxing Science too. So what do we know about our boxers? We know that boxers are well adapted to fast stretch shortening cycle movements. This is due to them being light on their feet during footwork drills that they've performed probably from being children all the way through to being a professional boxer. They also do high volumes of skipping. If you think about that ground contact time, that's as short as the ground contact time during skipping. Think about how many contacts a boxer will do within each session or within a training week or a training year, doing them fast, sharp movements, short ground contact times. This makes them, their fast stretch shortening cycle capabilities really well adapted. However, what they do struggle with is progressions, and progressions from height or weight or single leg movements as well. And there's another thing is that they struggle with ankle mobility. So their ankle mobility can play a huge role in the effectiveness of the exercises selected. So what does that suggest? Well, the low difference between the squat jump and the counter movement jump says that boxers struggle with eccentric utilisation. They struggle with that force absorption. And this is due to like not being exposed to maximal strength during their athletic development as they're moving from kind of teenagers through to young amateurs through to being professional boxers as well. They're probably exposed to maximum strength training as soon as they decide to get a strength conditioning coach on board. Because they're not exposed to maximum strength training, their eccentric strength isn't as well developed as these other sports, and this has an effect on how they produce force through the stretch shortening cycle. Next point is training loads and strength levels limit the ability to improve this. Therefore, plyometrics can be useful. And what do I mean by that is that we can only get our athletes so strong in a short amount of time. We're working with 10-week camps at a time where they're going to be doing conditioning training, they're going to be doing sparring, doing the pad work and the bag work. That all comes before the actual strength training. Our strength training is limited by the other aspects of sport that is much more important. So what we don't want to do is put in heavy squats or eccentric work. You know, doing eccentric work or heavy squats, this can make athletes sore, it can make them tired and fatigued, and this can have an effect on the other aspects of training. Put this all together, they're also in a calorie deficit as well. So you're talking about getting athletes sore, their recovery from that session will be prolonged because of their diet. Another issue we know with boxers is that they have movement and mobility issues due to the demands of the sport. You know, they're quite tight in the adductors and in the hips. They haven't got the strongest of glutes, they're tight in the shoulders as well. So these movement and mobility issues can restrict the kind of exercises that we can do, the effectiveness of them, and also how much risk of injury that causes. Let's say we're doing high hurdles or jumping from a high box. If we can't control the forces with our strength, and then we're overcompensating using the muscles that are a little bit tighter than the others, then we're going to be at high risk of injury. So this has a big effect on the plyometric journey and the different exercises that we select with our athletes. So what are the aims of plyometrics for boxing? We want to improve eccentric strength, to develop the stretch shortening cycle of the glutes, the hamstrings and the quads. We want to overload ankle stiffness with either high pogos, single leg pogos, or we'll go for fast movements as well. And then what we look to do is gradually build foundational movements and then progress into more explosive activities. So here's the plyometric journey. You've got land / jump, jump, and then we've got load. Let's start with here, land / jump. So we look to develop the landing mechanics as well as explosiveness with appropriate exercises. So first things first, you heard the term walk before you can run or crawl before you can walk. In our terms, we want to land before we can jump. So develop them, the eccentric utilisation, develop the ability to absorb and decelerate high amounts of force before we can transition that into a jump. We need to equal out the differences that we're seeing in the counter movement jump and the squat jump. So we look to use like kind of altitude landings and different kind of drills that try and improve landing mechanics. But also we're quite mindful that our athletes are wanting to get fast and explosive for the next fight. They're saying down at Boxing Sciences that every fight is a world title fight, whether you're in a European or British title fight or if you're fighting a journeyman, we want to try and improve our athlete and be the best possible version of them every fight, because if you lose or you don't have a good performance, this can affect your career in the long run. So we want to try and get our athletes in the best possible shape, so we try and adapt our exercises to make sure that we're still improving strength and improving speed. If we're talking about a youth athlete and we've got a long time to work with them, we would just be working on landing mechanics right there. But with our professionals, we look to try and put in some jumping drills in there as well. So in that first phase, we will select some exercises that are appropriate, that will help improve speed and explosiveness. This can be segmented jumps, so actually doing an altitude landing, holding, and then firing up into a jump. Or we'll do box jumps as well. So the reason why we do box jumps is because when we jump up high, the box is there, and there's actually low eccentric, there's low forces that our athletes have to deal with. So going on to the next phase is the jump phase, and these are bodyweight exercises that challenge the stretch shortening cycle of the lower body. So these can be just rapid counter movement jumps, repeated counter movement jumps as well, can be broad jumps, squat jumps, can be one-step counter movement jumps as well, so actually stepping off a box, and that's challenging the stretch shortening cycle even more. And then the last phase is the loading phase, so we'll use loaded jumps challenging the stretch shortening cycle of the lower body. So we'll use either like a dumbbell counter movement jump, we'll do accentuated counter movement jumps as well, where we drop the weight as we go down. And then we've got as traditional trap bar, we've got our trap bar jumps, we've also got our loaded counter movement jumps using a barbell. So that's the plyometric journey. And a lot of people asking me on the course is how long would you spend on each phase? If I was to tell you now, I'd be choosing 10-week phase on that, 10-week phase on jumping, and then cycle like different progressions of the jump for around about a year, and then look to do some loaded plyometric work. But what I'd like to point out is that it all depends on the athlete that's in front of you. You know, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Different athletes at our gym are either got fast-switch muscle fibers, some are endurance athletes that will struggle to perform these actions. So we treat each athlete individually and just use our coaching experience to help progress them on. So if you've got an athlete, start them off with this land and jump phase for 10 weeks and then see where they're at and keep revisiting some landing mechanics as well. You know, with our athletes that have been in for a few years, we still do altitude jumps today. Okay, so we're going to have a look at some of the exercises that I'd use in each phase. Over 30 demonstrations are available for you. If you've got any questions at all about the different exercise techniques or anything that I've raised during this workshop, please give us an email at boxing.sci@gmail.com or contact us through our social media channels. So we normally do our plyometric work as part of extended warm-up. So after they go through their eagles, glute bridges, side climbs, everything like that, after they do the squats and the lunges, they'll move on to like one plyometric move and a punch specific movement, so landmine punch, med ball punch, something like that. And they pair that up as a superset. In session 1, we'll do altitude landings. In session 2, we'll do box jumps. Today we're going to do both as part of one exercise.
So just quickly, is that before you do a boxing session or just a normal strength and conditioning session?
A normal strength and conditioning session, yeah. So before they move on to the key exercise. So I'll show you altitude landing first. So you're going to step onto the box. How high? It just depends, right? You'd start them off pretty low, probably a 30 cm box, and then you'd start trying to put them a little bit higher. So altitude landing, we're basically stepping off the box and landing into the power position. And holding there. So the power position is where you're sitting into that quarter squat. We'll get it a go now. Alright, so feet hip width apart, sit into that quarter squat position and popping them hips back. You want to be on like balls of your feet and like a little bit of tension through the heels, but like you can get like an A4 piece of paper just underneath it, okay? And up, then power position, and up, okay. So basically what we're doing is trying to get in that power position as quickly as we can. And the quicker that we do it, the better that we're absorbing that force. So I see a lot of coaches like saying, land as softly as you can. If you land as soft as you can, I'm getting into a deeper position. It's taking me longer to absorb that force. So as long as it's not on the floor, you know, we're wanting to absorb that force as quick as we can. We've got to make some sort of noise. So, I'm going to step on. I'll show you some of the mistakes. Going too low. Trying to be too solid straight away, quite need dominant. Too upright as well. Lean forward, use your hips, sit into that power position. If an athlete can't do that, and they can't even do it from a 30 centimetre box, they've got a bit of an issue, all right? But a good regression is to do it from a standing position, going from tiptoes into that power position, okay? So if I just want you to get onto your feet, get up onto your toes, arms up, and then land. Good stuff. Arms up, and land. Good. 2 more times. Up. Getting into that position. Good. Good power position. 1 more. Great stuff. That's great if you're working with youth athletes. If you haven't got access to a box or a step or whatever, just go and put onto your toes and drop him. Also, you can just do like little jumps, either forward, a little bit further forward, or try and get a little vertical, okay? Landing into that. So we've got altitude landings. In session 2, we'll do box jumps. I'll show you a quick demonstration. Okay, so you've seen box jumps time and time again, whether it's in your own gym, whether it's on Instagram or YouTube. A lot of mistakes are being made with box jumps. The biggest one is trying to get the box as high as I can. This is just basically for ego a little bit of a challenge, because the higher the box goes, the less like kind of movement that basically reduces the quality of the movement. The aim of the box jump is to improve triple extension of the hips, knees and ankles. Wanting to get the hip extension to transfer into your punch. The higher the box goes, what happens is that ends up being knee tuck. So I've seen like athletes like get on boxes like about this high, and what they'll do anything to get onto that box. The main thing that they'll do is as soon as they start jumping, they tuck in the hip straight away. So that's not that athletic movement. We're not working that hip extension that we can. So I much prefer a lower box, but an optimal movement, getting them hips firing, extending, then landing on the box. Another thing is that, well, repeated quite a lot yesterday, our athletes will compensate to try and make the exercise as easy as they can every time. they're used to bouncing off their feet. So what they'll want to do is have a little drive off straight away, use that short stretch shortening cycle. So they'll leave the floor and then bounce up. It's not training what we need to train. We're training the short stretch shortening cycle when we're doing our purgos. To do it there, we're not optimizing anything. We optimize short stretch shortening cycle in them specific exercises, purgos, high purgos, something that we're going to touch on in a bit. We're not training that when we're doing the box jumps. What we're doing during the box jumps is training long stretch shortening cycle, trying to get into that power position and drive up from there. Another thing, when you see that tap more, is where they have a walk into it and then drive up. Okay, so what I want you to do is to box jump, then on the other side, altitude landing. Let's get the boxes out. Not too many boxes, let's have like 4 people to box, 5 people to box and work through that.
What's that, sorry? Yeah.
Great work. Good, nice solid landings, get your hips back. A little bit softer landing on the box jumps, yeah? Yeah, good. Solid, just get a little bit deeper, Francesca, yeah? So in terms of the box jump, there isn't that many regressions that we can do. Many progressions that we can do before we move on to counter movement jump. Box jumps only using that first phase. I don't really opt to really use them with boxers that have been on the program for quite a while. There's many different ways that we can do it. With altitude landings, what I want you to do now, I want you to transition into that jump, so segmented jumps. So what we're going to do is get into that altitude landing position, hold, then go into a jump. So we're holding, we're getting into that good strong position, hold, then jump.
Sorry, ask a quick question. So that power move, can you just tell me the benefits of that again? So when you land into that power move, what's the benefits?
It's just utilising hamstrings, your glutes and your quads, you're absorbing that force. If you've got athletes that are wanting to improve and get more explosive, the concentric phase is the high explosive movement, but everything's affected by the phases before that. We know with boxers that they're poor eccentrically compared to a lot of different sports, and that's due to basically max strength training, not exposed to it. This is a quick way to try and improve that. So it's like a little bit making sure that you walk before you run. Let's make a land before you can jump. So if we start going into plyometrics and nice explosive movement straight away, if we haven't got the mechanics to land, one, them exercises aren't being as effective, and they're also being dangerous as well, because we're getting in bad positions, we're using muscles and tendons and joints that we shouldn't be using. So getting to that power move is just basically trying to utilise these muscles as best as we can. So we're landing into that power move, and we can either go hands on his hips, that's one progression, and then we can go with a little arm swing, and then hold. Obviously, when you're jumping up, you need to make sure you're landing. When coaching this for the first time, what you're likely to see is landing, and they think the end of the move is the jump, and then they go back into bad landing mechanics. Repeat them landing mechanics. If you've got an athlete that is really struggling with the landing mechanics and you're wanting to try and push them on, you can either do a little broad jump going forward, or you can do weighted altitude landings. So you can overload that movement a little bit more. So I've done it with body weight vests. Body weight vests are probably best to do. I don't think there's one in here. You can either do it with body weight vests or just some light dumbbells. I'd rather do it there with the weight than going off a really high box. And then this is the broad jump. I'll do it facing this way. Swinging forward, then landing. That small broad jump there just reduces that eccentric loading through there. Don't go too wild on the broad jump because we quite need dominant athletes. What you'll tend to see during a broad jump is when they go too far, they'll go forward. Okay, not like that. Sometimes like that, but often like try and go over, and it's hard to control the hips. The more vertical, the better. But that little broad jump is a good way for athletes that are struggling, going up and down. Okay, so we've got segmented jumps, hands on hips, segmented jump with an arm swing. We've got a little broad jump coming forward. We've also got weighted altitude landings. Let's work through them 4 exercises. Good. Segmented, so you need to hold it, yeah? Hold. Yeah, good. It's probably more vertical. You think about if you're doing a broad jump, and you think about that forward movement when we're punching. You got to be in control, yeah. And with broad jumps as well, like I said about the landing, one, it becomes dangerous if you try and go for it. Now, if you think about when you throw a punch, are we actually propelling ourselves forward? Or we're trying to plant our feet, we transfer that force, and we sit into that position. Yeah. So I like to focus on vertical impulse. Now, horizontal impulse is important for like sprinting. So we still work it through the like max sprints on the curve. The broad jumps are quite limited. Limit your rate of force development. The reason why is because of the landing mechanics, like I just showed you. When we're going forward, your knees are going to come forward as well. So if we're going for max out, let me go for max out effort. So that's me trying to produce as much force through a broad jump as I can. Someone can tell me what's happening at the end. Yeah.
Hard to stick the landing.
Pardon?
Hard to stick the landing.
Hard to stick the landing, and I'm quite strong. Right? So boxers might find that difficult. So there's 2 things that can create. That can create an injury risk. Also, if I'm coaching it, I'm going to say, don't jump as far. If I'm saying don't jump as far, not producing as much force. So it's actually limiting that effectiveness of that exercise. That's the reason why we don't do broad jumps. Okay? We do broad jumps, but we don't favour them over like working vertically. Okay? We use broad jumps where it's appropriate. So the next exercise that we're going to do, we're actually going to transition into the jumping. So we've got counter movement jump. It's basically hands on hips, dipping down and jumping up as high as you can. Making sure that we're getting that good landing each time. Progress that, an arm swing. What's the challenge there with the arm swing? I'm getting higher, so what does that challenge? Landing. Yeah, eccentric landing, so you need to make, that's why it's a progression from the hands on hips. You've got squat jump. So like the testing, hands on hips, arm swing coming up. So give a quick demonstration of that. And then land. Then you've got seated squat jump. So this is to really avoid any kind of like kind of eccentric base one. So I need a bigger step for that. So seated. So being in that seated position is avoiding any kind of like subconscious eccentric loading. So driving up. The main important thing to do here is make sure that your chest stays up a lot. We'll try and get momentum from the back, chest comes down and drive up from there. Progression from the counter movement jump would be to do repeated jumps. So we start really challenging that stretch shortening cycle there. Whew. And then you've got your 1 set counter movement jump. So I'd start off from probably a lower box than this. I don't think, you know what, just do it off a weight plate. So creating that eccentric, a little bit more eccentric demand, stepping off a smaller box, driving up straight from there. Progress that on to a bigger box. Obviously, from a larger height, you're going to struggle with that eccentric utilisation there, the them landing mechanics. So this is why we've gone the little step to start off with, and then we progress onto this. Okay, so we've got normal counter movement jump, hands on hips, arm swing. Same with the squat jumps. You've got a seated squat jump. You've got a repeated counter movement jump where I'm just looking like a nutter when I'm doing it. 1 set counter movement jump from here using a lower box. And then you've got a higher box version, more like a depth jump.
Just ask a question. After that, what is the limit on height? Or would you say a safe height to work to?
I'd probably say that's your limit right there. Yeah, yeah. About, what's that? About 30 centimetres, 40 centimetres, something like that. Yeah, I wouldn't go any higher than that when doing them kind of jumps. I would do it from like, let's say, that, like a 24-inch box like that, but segmented. I wouldn't do it straight away.
And what's the reps and sets and rest?
Reps and sets, with these I'd do 5 reps, 3 to 4 sets, and I'd use it as part of like your extended warm-up. So you do this, you do landmine punch, you have about a minute rest, and then go again. So the general rest, you'd say, is around about 2 minutes. If you think like you're doing your landmine punches in between, and have a minute rest, and then go again. Strictly like plyometrics, you say like 3 or 4 minutes rest in between sets. If you're really optimising, but that's like working with track and field athletes. Not with boxers that are training twice a day and got loads of different things to do. So I'd say like have a minute rest, they're ready to go again. Okay? Bit faster on that.
Down and up?
Yeah, as fast as you can. That's it. All right, so we're going on to loading phase. So we're doing land and jump, jumping phase, and then we go for this loading phase as well. Now, been asked how long would you spend on each phase, and the typical cop-out answer is that it depends. Depends on the athlete, how they're adapting to each exercise, what the landing mechanics are like, what the strength levels are like, and they're progressing through the program as well. You've just got to use your coach's eye on that. Typical, let's say if I'm doing train like a champion and I'm putting out a program to people that I don't know what they're doing, I'd spend 10 weeks on land and jump, 10 weeks on jump, and then I'd probably stick on variations of jump, so your progressions, so from your counter movement jump to like repeat a counter movement jump to your one step counter movement jump. Okay, so we'd stay in that phase for quite a while. Then we'd start to go into loaded jumps with athletes that are getting quite strong and quite good at plyometrics. So different, I'm going to go through some different loaded jumps now. And the first one we've got is a dumbbell counter movement jump. Okay, so keeping his arms quite rigid by his side, we're not using them as momentum. As soon as we start using them as momentum, it affects how we're landing. It becomes quite a chaotic exercise. Keeping the arms nice and rigid, little quarter squat, dip of the hips, knees, get into that power position, driving up, extending your hips, squeezing your glutes and getting up nice and tall. Main thing that we need to do is make sure that we're landing well, especially when we've got weights going down. Okay, you can do that repeated. I'll do that lighter than this. So I've got 7.5 kilos there. You probably do single dumbbell counter movement jumps with about 7.5 kilos, maybe some 10 kilo dumbbells as well. But if you're doing repeated counter movement jump, I won't go higher than 5 kilos. Just because of that eccentric demand, rep after rep, it can become quite difficult.
It doesn't matter the weight of the person.
Yeah, so if you...
Heavy weights with 5, so he's 64 kilos, so I'd give him 5 kilos. Would I do that the same with someone who's 115, 120 kilos?
You'd go a little bit heavier. You'd go a little bit heavier.
Max.
Yeah.
Nothing over what, 10, 8?
Yeah, you wouldn't go over 10. You're 10 in each hand. It's quite heavy, but yeah, you'd go up a little bit heavier, probably work up to 6, 7, 8 kilos or something like that. So repeated. You can see there that I'm struggling coming down there. I'm struggling to keep that posture. That's why we go a bit lighter. Got your attenuated counter movement jumps where we're dropping them at the bottom. Just got to make sure that you're dropping them right out to the side. As soon as you drop them underneath, they can roll either way. If they roll on the inside, you're going to be in trouble. So you need to make sure you've got a lot of distance. The key thing with this is a slow eccentric, then explode up. Reason why I go slow eccentric, as soon as you go faster, you lose the benefits of using the weights because you've got no control of it. As soon as you go down fast, you see athletes just chucking them down. So let's do a fast one. Chucking them down like that. So going a little bit slower adds to better movement, better eccentric utilisation. So we're going down, then exploding up. So there what I'd use for your main plyometric movements. We've got some key exercises that we'd use too. Part of like speed strength phase, speed phase. But also can be used, bringing it over here, mate. Also can be used as part of a warm-up exercise as well. So step into the bar, get into your deadlift position, hips back, just above your knees, knees bent, shoulders back. And land. So with your landing mechanics there, it's quite difficult to get into that power position when you've got a bigger weight. So all I'll do is try and land and then softly bring it back down, rather than like chucking it down or trying to land it there and then come down. Because you've got more weight, it's harder to land it. And make sure that you're powering through, keeping your chest up, and then driving them hips up at the top. There you go.
What way is that done? That's not hard, right? Easy?
Felt heavy.
So that was maximum strength. Speed strength.
Speed strength,
So rep range again.
3 to 5 reps.
And would you incrementally increase it with that athlete if they're getting stronger on that sort of weight or not?
I'd keep them on that same weight.
Yeah.
I'd work to 30% 1 rep max. No. Just keep working it. Yeah. Start them off 30%. As soon as I get better at it, 40%, maybe even 50%.
No more than 50.
No.
Yeah. But like you said, like boxers would just, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I can do heavier.
Yeah.
Is this where you use gym aware as well?
Yeah, gym aware, yeah. We always do it with gym aware, trap bar deadlifts. Trap bar jumps. The progression from that would be speed. So if they're getting faster, that's when you're monitoring change.
Would that be 5 reps again for like 50%?
5 reps. It depends. I'd say if you're going to 40%, I'd say 3 reps. Anything above that, 3 reps, yeah. And then below that, 5 reps.
And the box jumps, because you can get them soft boxes now, apparently that probably works your ankles, so is that something you can say to try and use or just stick to solid boxes?
I prefer solid ones because you're absorbing that force, whereas like with the softer ones you can end up like kind of rolling your ankles a little bit, whereas like harder, like I got asked this question about like doing Olympic lifting on a harder platform. We're doing landmine split jerks and they were driving into the floor and they said, wouldn't that be better on a softer one? But really, you're losing a lot of energy, a lot of force. If you're on a solid floor, then you can absorb that force straight away and it's not lost. So that's why I'd use a harder plyo box. Okay, I'll show you a barbell jump in this corner over here. So you approach bar, thumb length away from the smooth bits of the bar, so just wider than shoulder width apart. You want to come around here, guys? Come around here. Come under, sit on top of your shoulders. Feet about hip width apart. Quick dip of the hips and knees, and we're driving up nice and tall. So that's counter movement jump. You can also do squat jump from there, hold, and then jump. Then you can do repeated, but obviously not getting as high. And back in.
Likewise.
I start them off with a bar, then I work anywhere between 25%, 30% 1 rep max, and then once I get better at it, I work between 30 and 40%.
And rep range 5.
Yeah, 5 reps to start off with.
Rest.
You'd be resting about a good 2 minutes after that, 2.5 minutes, if you're doing that as a key exercise.
Less is more.
Pardon?
Less is more.
Yeah. With this is the trap bar and the barbell counter movement jumps. They're toughest ones. So on the program I've had Fowler, Jordan, and Callum. do these. I haven't had anyone else, have I? Really? Barry maybe? Barry's done it.
Barry, Kyle.
And Kyle as well. Kyle's really explosive. So 5 boxers out of all the boxers that we've worked with, been able to do these. So.
And how long before you see progression?
Progression is in like.
In the boxes.
You're looking at some big numbers, you know, in space of like 10 weeks. So you're seeing. So we did a full training camp with Kyle. 5'7", quite tall, but it's at flyweight. Is a big flyweight, and he was going down for his English title fight, and he's only ever made flyweight once. So obviously weight making was a big issue. So we didn't want him like being fatigued in his training sessions, sparring as well. We were going into his first 10-round fight. So we decided to work to his super strengths, and we know that Kyle's really fast and really explosive. So we decided not to work on max strength all the way through the 10 weeks, and we worked on barbell counter movement jump and trap bar jump, and working up through like kind of starting off at 30% 1 rep max, then working up 40%, and then actually doing like, I think we did 3 weeks of lifting, didn't we? And after them 3 weeks, like 3 weeks lifting around about 80%, we dropped it back down to doing barbell counter movement jumps and trap bar jumps at 30%. And what we found is that he maintained his max strength, but everything else underneath it improved. So everything from 80% 1 rep max improved by 10%, 11%, 12% in his explosiveness. So we hadn't shifted his back strength, but everything underneath it has improved, and that's kind of what we wanted to do. We're not here to create powerlifters, here to create strong and explosive athletes, and the closer that we're getting to boxing specific movement is becoming faster and more explosive as well. So yeah, we see it like as soon as we get athletes onto here, we're seeing some really good changes, because it's something totally different to what they've done. So like we were saying yesterday, with like being open to like doing strength and conditioning for the first time, when they start doing these exercises for the first time, seeing some really big improvements.
And you'd always throw the strength and conditioning, like the lifting of the weights, you'd always put like 3 weeks of that into the program in that training period, or you wouldn't?
That was a totally new method that we use with him, and it worked. What we've done in the past, we've cycled through max strength, strength speed and speed strength phases. We think that we need to keep topping up max strength levels to make sure that we're not becoming too explosive, like too fast without being strong. So we need to keep topping it up to make sure that it's like kind of benefiting him across the curve.
So doing, how many times a week would you do this, and then how many times a week would you do power training with the weights?
I do 2 strength conditioning sessions a week, and this is part of strength conditioning. So when they do the max strength work, they do it twice a week, and then that's separate to when they do this.
But when you're doing the max strength, you're not doing
we'll do it as part of a warm-up. So we'll either use these with our stronger athletes. We'd do like three reps, 3 sets, and probably only working at 30% 1 rep max. And then when they're doing the strength speed and the speed strength phases, we start putting that as a key exercise. So we're looking at more reps and more sets as well. So okay. Any more questions on them exercises? No? Right, let's go through it.
Sorry, when would you put one in a program and not the other?
Pardon?
Would you always use both of them? Or would you?
Yeah, I'd use one in one and one in other. So I'd use like a squat and a deadlift in a program. So squatting on session 1 or 2, and then deadlift on the other session.
What I always like is the effect not the same, like it's putting force into the ground, like exhausting force on the way down. Is it not the same trap bar and
no, that's more concentric based. Okay. More concentric based, more of a hip hinge movement than this is a squat movement as well. So yeah, they're quite the similar exercises, still producing force, but it's just in different way.
Yeah, I get that, but we're not squatting with the bar, we're just literally...
A quarter squat.
Sorry?
Yeah, it's like a squat, quarter squat. So like it's not that trap bar. We're getting into this position. It's hips are back. It's more of a hip hinge movement than there. It's just coming straight down. So I'd use it like a squat and deadlift. If we're thinking of a strength training program, you do squat exercise in one session, hinge in another. And that's same with the trap bar deadlift. That's like, the trap bar jumps, that's more of a hinge movement. This is more of a squatting movement. And this is challenging eccentric more, and that's concentric. Yeah. So, okay. Good stuff. Let's go through them exercises. So we've got, I'm trying to remember them all now. We've got dumbbell counter movement jump. We've got repeated dumbbell counter movement jump. We've got accentuated jumps, we've got trap bar jumps, and we've got the barbell counter movement jumps. Now, I'd just like to say, if you haven't trap bar deadlifted before, or you're not as strong on trap bar deadlift, or not as strong on the squats, I'd avoid doing them because they're quite stressful exercises. So like I was finding them quite tough. Like I said before, I'm quite strong. Right? So yeah, so I'll just try the dumbbell ones, but if you're confident in your ability, try out the trap bar jumps and the squat jumps, okay? Off we go, let's give them a try. And then we're gonna, yeah, and then extend your hips, good. So get your hips all the way through, chest up, drive, yeah, good. Nice. Exercises that we're going to go for when athlete comes into the gym, just going forward, hands on your hips. Off we go. Let's come up all the way up to me. A little bit higher, a little bit more vertical. Good. Yeah, and have a walk back. No, wait. All right, good stuff. As quick as possible. So, 200 milliseconds. I'm not going to get my stopwatch out because it'll take all day. All right. But what you need to do is make sure it's just sounding like a clap. Okay. If your contacts aren't sounding like a clap, a little bit too long. Now, a lot of you having toes pointing down. Need to make sure that your toes are pointing up. So when we're actually contacting with the floor, if you think like, right, we're reacting off the floor. We will try and react off the floor as quickly, as optimally as possible. So if we're going like that, not getting that good reaction. If we're coming from this angle, let's all give that a little tap there. Yeah, try on your left. Okay. So we're getting a better contact. So when we're jumping up, you need to make sure that you're tucking them toes up into your shins. Okay, so hands on your hips. Make sure you're not coming too horizontal as well. Still just making little edges forward each time. Off we go. Feet together, good. Good. Nice, toes up, toes up, toes up. Go into it again, straight away. Let's try and get a little bit higher. Yeah, good, get a little bit higher. Okay, toes up. Great work. Okay, so we're trying to get higher to help us and get those arms moving as well. As we get higher, the force coming down is larger, so it becomes a little bit more difficult. So just make sure as we get higher, we're keeping that ground contact time to a minimum. Off we go. Get as high as you can. Good.
Oh, yes. Wash your hand.
Good. Vertical, 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 vertical. Good stuff. Sam, you're going to be my partner for this. Have you seen Grease before? The film? Not seen Grease?
Yeah, I think
Yeah, right. Come on. Right, so we're basically doing the dance when they're going back like that, okay? But S&C version, okay? So I want you to walk back slowly. Sam's going to be my assistant and basically make me jump higher. I'm just going to use his big, strong shoulders here, okay? And walk back. No. I just want you to walk back very slowly, yeah? Look at that, we're having a good party there, yeah? All right, come this way, yeah? Right, walk back, yeah, go. Okay, so then my sister jumps, getting me higher, so then the force going down is more, yeah?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, off we go. So grab your partner, grab the big strong shoulders. All right, yeah, coming this way, Yeah, go on, Sam. Sure, push higher. Yeah, that's it, good. Get high. Yes, Jack. Good. Saw that raving in Brighton. Use the shoulders.
As they jump up, punch them in the stomach.
Yeah, there you go. Make sure they're tense. High, push off, good. Yes. Yeah, let's go through it again if you haven't had a go yourself. Can sing Grease while you're doing it. I'm the one, you are the one I want. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Quicker, Ben, quick. Okay, so challenge them with height and challenge them with speed as well. So now we're going to get low to the ground, but we're getting fast movements, okay? So you can do slaloms. So one group lines up on this line here, another group on this line. Basically we're coming forward, either side of the line. So start off slow. Nice and tight, knees slightly bent, quick ground contact time. And get quicker. That's how I roll into work every morning.
When you did that the dance one that used to blow the...
I'll do that. No, I'm gonna do that. Alright, off we go. Slalom. Quick, speed. Speed. Good. Let's do it twice. Let's get tight to the line. Let's try and get as many contacts in you as you can. Let's try and do it to here. Do it to here. Quick. As many contacts as you can. Too many coming too horizontal. Good. Speed. Yes! Look at that. Yeah. I want whatever you're having, mate. Yeah. Good stuff. Okay. Push that on. Can go single like, yeah? A little bit tougher. So start off nice and light. Then work into the line nice and fast. Let's go, left and right. Okay. Try and get as many contacts in as you can. Nice, Jack. Jack's got the moves, man. Good, nice and quick. Good, so this is really challenging the ankle stiffness here. The elasticity around the ankle joint and the calves. Okay. Next one, fast pogoes, okay? So we've got the slaloms. That's probably a progression, your first progression if you're working on fast ones. On fast pogoes. Now, fast pogoes are this. So you're getting into that power position, getting slightly more like kind of towards the balls of your feet, so your heels are slightly raised. We're coming forward. Okay, so main thing is not to get too much into Michael Jackson position. Leaning slightly forward, heels just off the floor. Nice and quick, okay? That's what the boxers say, but there's a benefit to this, obviously. Off we go. Good, try and not shuffle. Yes. Phones out. Good, feet a little bit wider, feet wide. Great stuff, let's go again. Hips back. Heels to the floor. Great stuff. I don't know whether it's progression or regression, it's just a variation. We're going both feet, okay? Both feet, nice and quick. Pulling forward. What I like to do is do fast feet, slow hands. Hips back and down. Okay, off we go. Good. Try not to go too far forward. It's all about that control. How many steps can you get in a short amount of time? Alternate feet. Good work. Okay. Pardon? Just for control. Just something to do. Make sure they wait. Right. Last one. And I'm going to chuck you in the deep end with this because we're running out of time. I love doing this one. Criss, cross, tuck jump. Criss, cross, tuck jump. Okay. So I'll do it again. Criss, cross, tuck jump. Criss, cross, tuck jump. Off we go. See how we got it. Yeah, good. Speed. Try avoid from being light on your feet. Try and be explosive. Drive into that floor. Go on, one more go. All right. Good stuff, yeah? Speed. Good, stay low, yeah? So a few of you now, you start a quick crisscrossing, start going quite upright. Still try and maintain that power position. Right, I'm going to give you one more, just for a challenge. Okay, so we're going to do lateral crisscross tuck jump, but we're going to add an ollie shuffle in there. So it's criss, cross, tuck jump, left, right, criss, cross, tuck jump, left, right. Just for a laugh. Off we go. Chris. Where's the crisscross? Crisscross, tuck jump, left, right, yeah. Stay low, stay low, stay low. Jack's got the moves, man.
You do the skates?
Pardon?
You do the skates a lot?
Ice skaters?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good. Good stuff. Okay, so a little bit fun at the end, but really effective exercise once you do it right. You think about that short ground contact time, challenging your joints, your ankle joints at different angles, what you've got to do in the boxing ring. So, covered quite a lot there. What we're saying now, what time do you need to start? Yeah. Quick little drink, toilet break. Good work.
Matt,